everyone, and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Sling TV. I am Mike Barner. He is Kirien Sprecher, and we come to you every Wednesday to give you the information that you need to win your fantasy basketball leagues. Kirien, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty great, Mike. I got well rested for the first time ever on a Tuesday night because the NBA Cup semifinal games actually tipped off at a reasonable time here in Wisconsin.
You're inaccurate, Karen. It's the Emirates NBA Cup. Didn't you hear the announcers last night? They made sure to spoon feed us Emirates in the front of every NBA Cup mention.
I apologize to Emirates. I only stick to our sponsors here at the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm only giving them shout outs.
Well said. Well, let's talk about the NBA Cup games from last night. And then later on in the show, after we do our normal news and notes, listen, we're about 2 months into the season. The standings are starting to take shape. So we're going to talk about teams that are bottom feeders right now and whether we need to worry about the veterans or the superstars on those teams for fantasy basketball purposes down the stretch. But first, let's talk about the two NBA Cups games. Let's talk about Knicks Raptors first. The Knicks win 117-101. Jalen Brunson, 35 points, took just 19 shots in the game, shot 13 for 19 from the field. Karl Anthony Towns came back from 1 game absence. He had 14 points and 16 rebounds. Knicks played well. They're finally getting healthy. The big news here for the Raptors, RJ Barrett still out, and Emmanuel Quickley did not play last night. So it was Brandon Ingram scored 31 points, and then he didn't get much help from anybody else, right, Kirien?
Yep, absolutely right. Without Quickley, the Raptors offense just looked a little stale, and the Knicks have been playing good ball since Josh Hart got inserted into the starting lineup. I'm not quite sure why that wasn't a thing to begin the season, but it seems like Mike Brown is finally coming around to letting Josh Hart do what he does best. The Knicks are 8-1 since Josh Hart has been inserted in the starting lineup. He has a plus 15 net rating during that stretch. So not only are they winning, but Josh Hart has been a big reason why. Again, plus 13 last night, so right in kind of line with what he has been doing over the last couple of weeks. You mentioned Jalen Brunson. He was fantastic. Cat dealt with some early foul trouble, still led the team with a plus 21. Mikal Bridges, absolutely fantastic in real life production and fantasy production this year. It seems like every game he's getting multiple stocks, efficient shooting, a couple assists, a couple of rebounds here and there. Nothing super splashy, but when you look at his overall results in terms of fantasy production right now, Mikal Bridges continues to be an elite player, and he's never going to miss his games, which is always a good thing for us.
Yeah, that really helps everyone who rosters him in fantasy basketball. The second game, we head down to Florida, the Heat and the Magic. The Magic win 117-108 after the Heat came out firing early in the first quarter. Desmond Bane, 37 points, hit 6 3-pointers. No Franz Wagner. So Anthony Black started, 10 points, 7 assists over 34 minutes. Now, Wagner's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks there. So it looks like we have a clear path to Anthony Black playing a lot, right, Kirien?
Yes, absolutely. Anthony Black should be fired up in all fantasy formats. I know when Paulo was missing time, Tristan Da Silva was starting, and at RotoWire we were projecting Da Silva to start with Wagner out now too. Not two, but Paulo's back, but with Wagner out now, we thought Tristan Da Silva would just be continue to start. But it's been Anthony Black, and Anthony Black has been the better player overall. Sometimes it takes his offense a little bit to get going, but you love to see him all over the court. I think his first bucket, he kind of missed like a wide open layup and then got the rebound back and dunked it again. Those types of like energy plays are what makes Anthony Black great. And then when his offensive game, starts to click, that's when he could be, really put up strong fantasy stats. Real quick, going back to the Raptors game, I wanted to say that RJ Barrett, we don't know when he's going to come back, but he got a PRP injection, which normally means that's I'm trying to play through this pain and I'm going to do whatever it takes to try and play through this pain. So that's not the greatest sign. It does seem like he might come back, around Christmas or something, but this is definitely a thing to watch throughout the season. But yeah, back to Orlando, Anthony Black, you saw Jalen Suggs grabbing at his groin multiple times throughout that game too. So you don't know how many minutes we're going to see from Jalen Suggs moving forward either. Anthony Black, if he's on your waiver wire, he's a priority ad for sure.
On the Heat side of the things, the Heat finally healthy. Tyler Hero came back. He had missed the last 2 games. He had 20 points, 7 rebounds. He played 34 minutes, which is great. He did shoot 0 for 6 for 3, which is very unlike him. But it's nice to see Hero not only back, but immediately playing heavy minutes.
Yes, absolutely. The Heat got out to a huge lead right away. I thought the Heat were going to run away with this one. Their fast-paced offense. Every time Norman Powell touched the ball, he was chucking up a three. Tyler Hero made some good plays early on, but like you said, once Orlando took away those easy buckets and forced Hero to the perimeter, his offense kind of fell off a cliff there. Andrew Wiggins also looked really good to start this game, but Miami just could not continue what they did in the first 3 minutes. They just completely fell off a cliff. The other thing from this game that, caught my eye, Orlando has beat Miami 3 times already to start the season. And Miami's they've been playing well. They've been probably playing above water, above board right now compared to what other people thought, what I thought at least. And Orlando's kind of, not really reached their peak again, dealing with injuries, but to beat, your in-state rivals for, lack of a better term, 3 times already, and we're only a quarter way through the season. I think that's a big testament to the peaks that Orlando can get to when they are clicking and they have everyone healthy.
Now we're going to talk about some news and notes around the league on the injury front of things. Trae Young, Shams reported Tuesday that Trae Young is optimistic about making his return in December. He has been out since October 29th, since he went down over the last 18 games. Jalen Johnson has averaged 24.1 points, 11.2 rebounds, 8.7 assists, 1.6 steals, and 1.9 three-pointers. Crazy here. What do we think about Jalen Johnson when Trae Young comes back? How about Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Who takes the biggest hit here?
I think Alexander Walker is going to take the biggest hit. I think Jalen Johnson still continues to play his game. Number one point scorer in the last 2 weeks right now, just completely playing out of his mind. But yeah, I think the Hawks know that Jalen Johnson is going to be a key part of their future. I think if you're projecting out 5-7 years, that's the guy that they want to lead this team. I still think they need Trae Young to win a playoff series this year. I think the organization still believes that. But that said, if Trae comes back, around Christmas and they struggle, I think trading him is definitely a possibility. But right now, going into, heading into mid-December right now, I think Atlanta still realizes that Jalen Johnson's awesome, but he's not going to win you a playoff series or even 2 playoff series in a weakened Eastern Conference. And they need a second superstar around him. Maybe that's Trae Young. That's what the next, 6 weeks are going to be when he comes back. That's what they're going to try and find out. And we have seen these 2 guys like Young and Johnson play well together at the same time. So I think the fit is there offensively for sure. It's just a matter of if they can hold up defensively.
Yeah, I wouldn't be floating out, I should sell high on Jalen Johnson. Maybe he scores a couple fewer points per game. Maybe his assist goes down by 1 or 2, but his overall numbers are still going to be crazy.
Yeah, only if you're like super paranoid about another Jalen Johnson injury, which I don't even want to put that out into the universe. Yeah, I won't. But there are people out there that think like that, and it's called fantasy. It's called gambling for a reason, right? Like you got your lotto ticket right now. Just let it ride.
All right, let's try to talk about some more possible good news. Devin Booker could play in tonight's NBA Cup game against the Thunder. He is officially listed as questionable. It has been 9 days since he suffered his groin injury. The good thing for fantasy managers is the Suns only played 2 games during that span. So he's been out for a week and a half, but they've only missed 2 games there. Our guy is Colin Gillespie, right? We've talked about Colin Gillespie till we're blue in the face. What happens to Gillespie when Devin Booker comes back?
Yeah, so I mean, Grayson Allen, I would assume is going to start at shooting guard with Booker at point guard. But Grayson has kind of struggled since returning from injury himself. So I don't want to say like Gillespie just gets pushed to the backup spot. I think Gillespie will be in strong competition for Grayson Allen. That's not to say, Grayson's going to cede minutes right away, but if Grayson starts 0 for 5 one game and Gillespie comes in and he goes 3 for 3, they're just going to ride with the hot hand, right? That's not great for us, in terms of fantasy, because we can't wait until the second quarter to decide who we're going to start on a given night. But my understanding would be Grayson's going to start. Grayson's going to have that runway as a veteran. He's done it before. He was doing it early this season, absolutely lighting things up. And then Gillespie will just be the backup guard at both spots. And when he catches fire, they're going to give him a huge runway. I think Jordan Goodwin might get not phased out of the rotation, but I think Goodwin's minutes will really start to fall. Well, while Gillespie's will maintain in the 20s, mid-20s going forward, even if he's just relegated to backup guard duties behind Allen and Devin Booker.
I wouldn't be dropping Gillespie yet if you picked him up. Groin injuries can be tricky. So just because Devin Booker comes back tonight doesn't mean that he's healthy moving forward. And also Jalen Green is still out. And he doesn't seem particularly close to returning anytime soon. So, yeah, I like your take. Jordan Goodwin would be the guy. Yeah, sure. You can cut bait on him. But Gillespie would be a guy I hold on to. And our final bit of good news, Jarrett Allen of the Cleveland Cavaliers practiced in full Tuesday. The Cavs' next game is Friday against the Wizards. Allen has played just one of the last 9 games for the Cavaliers. Now, during that span, Jalen Tyson averaged 15.3 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2.1 3-pointers. What do we do with Jalen Tyson and all that fantasy goodness that he has been providing us when Jarrett Allen comes back?
I'm really upset that Jalen Tyson doesn't have forward eligibility in ESPN leagues. I had to drop him in. I didn't have to drop him, but I had too many guards in one league, and he was the odd man out when Darius Garland came back a couple weeks ago. And I probably could have kept him and would have been starting him, but he doesn't have that forward eligibility. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But yeah, Jalen Tyson's been fantastic. I think, with DeAndre Hunter had been scoring some points, but he's kind of been really hit or miss recently. I don't think the Allen return really, Tyson will get pushed to the bench, right? They were starting Mobley. Then Tyson was at small forward or at shooting guard with DeAndre Hunter at small forward, whatever organization you want to do. Positions don't really matter in today's NBA. Yeah. But Jalen Tyson, I don't think he gets exercised out of this rotation. He's going to play 25 minutes. He's been one of their most consistent producers. I have DeAndre Hunter on the same fantasy team that I had Jalen Tyson, and I would have rather kept Tyson, and I would have rather, have Tyson at this moment. So I think the Cavs might be thinking the same thing. Tyson's just a more consistent, more well-rounded player. And when Allen comes back, that defense gets better. And I think Tyson's a better defender than DeAndre Hunter. I know going back to the training camp, there was a lot of Cavs fans that were pushing for Tyson to start coming right into the season with Strus out, and then having Hunter be like the offensive option off of the bench. So yeah, I think Tyson's a fine hold, even with Allen coming back. Obviously, in 10-team leagues, maybe even in 12-team leagues, he depending on who's on the waiver wire, you can cut bait with him. But I think he's going to stay a good part of this team or a good part of this rotation, and he's a good player.
He's a great guy to have for injury fill-ins for the Cavs, or when Garland needs a night off of his toe and stuff. I think dynasty formats, man, he's a guy I will want on my team because I think his future is real bright. And the Cavs are going to have, they probably already do. It's the cap is not easy for them to navigate when they have so many big contracts. So he's a guy that's going to be cheap that they could put in a big role starting as early as next season. He could be a full-time starter for them. So if you're in dynasty formats, he's a guy to really. What do you think about him in Dynasty, Kirien? I know you play a lot of Dynasty.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think maybe similar to like a Toumani Camara, where last year Camara was kind of just like a guy was like, oh yeah, he's a nice defender, he's a nice streaming candidate, and then like halfway through last season, you're like, wait, I think Toumani Camara is like a guy that I want on my for the next 5 years, right? I think Jalen Tyson's well on that track right now. I'm just looking at his box scores right now. He's played 25 plus minutes in 15 of his 20 games. So even when he's not in the starting lineup, they're trusting him, and he obviously there's been a lot of injuries. Darius Garland, and we don't really know what's going to happen with Garland. We've talked ad nausea about that toe injury and how he still doesn't look right at times in games. So, until things are crystal clear, I think Tyson's a great fill-in for whenever anybody misses time in Cleveland.
All right, before we examine some of these bottom feeder teams and talk about what we expect for their veterans moving forward, a word from our friends at Dabble. Dabble isn't just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this basketball season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble now. All right, Kirien. So we love talking about the good teams, the Thunder, the Spurs with Wemby healthy, the Knicks, the Pistons. Well, let's look at the bottom of the standings here. We have to start. Tanking season comes quick. Some of these teams last year, it came after Christmas. We were talking about the Jazz resting guys. The day after Christmas went, they started sitting guys. So we have to start thinking about this now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through 4 teams and discuss if we have any concerns about the best players on those teams for their fantasy basketball prospects moving forward. So let's start out with a fan favorite, the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings are 6-18, which is tied with the Clippers for the second worst record in the West. They have a weird hodgepodge roster of guards, and they're all veteran guards. They don't know who's starting and moving guys in and out of the lineup. So we're going to talk. Let's first talk about the main guys, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Domantas Sabonis, who's currently hurt. Are you worried about any of those guys? Do we think there's any maybe rainbow here at the end of the storm? Could we get a DeRozan trade to a team that might utilize him better? What do we think about the Kings, Kirien?
Yeah, I think, Zach LaVine is a candidate. I think Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis are both players who I think would have higher fantasy value if they were traded. Right now, obviously, you look at Sacramento and you're like, well, Zach LaVine is the go-to guy on some nights, and he drops 40 and like blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but then the other nights he drops 5 and then he drops 7. If he stays on this team, if Sabonis stays on this team, they're not going to win games, and they're going to be in street clothes come, fantasy playoff time. So I'm definitely worried about those guys, and I'm hoping for a trade, and if I am rostering them, or if they are traded, I would be looking to maybe go out and trade them depending on the spot, obviously. But Sabonis's huge fantasy value when he really hit his peak was with his assists, right? He's always going to get his rebounds. That's going to give him a strong fantasy floor, but his fantasy ceiling is when he gets those assists. If he goes to a contending team, I feel like a team is going to utilize him correctly and let him run that pick and roll at the top of the key. Let him do those dribble handoffs. He's going to be better utilized, and he'll actually be available during the stretch run. I think Zach LaVine is similar. If he goes to a contender, they're just gonna be like, hey man, when you're on the court, we want you to score, right? You put him in the Bruce Brown role with the Nuggets, right? And they're just like, hey, go score. And Zach LaVine would flourish in that role, and he'd be way more consistent offensively, where you get those, the up and down performances in Sacramento. DeMar DeRozan, I don't think a trade would really help, because I think his shots would go down. He'd have the ball in his hands less. He'd really just kind of be like a end of shot clock, like clutch game situation, go get a big bucket type of guy. So I think DeRozan's fantasy value is best just staying on the Kings, and you kind of just squeeze everything you can get out of him, and then expect him to be sat when the Kings aren't in a good spot come the end of the season. But I do have some hope for LaVine and Sabonis, depending if they get traded and depending on where they go. I know that's a lot of ifs.
I don't know. I'm very worried about Sabonis. He has a partially torn meniscus. That's not good. And for a big guy, I don't know. I'm nervous. If he doesn't get traded, and that knee flares up whatsoever at the end, we're not going to see him. Raynaud has played good. So it's not like they have to throw Drew Eubanks. If Drew Eubanks was the only guy on the roster, I'd say they're going to push Sabonis to play, at least, because the Kings are not, I don't know. The Kings are weird. They're bringing in Schroeder and Westbrook, and they've got Monk. They have a lot of veterans. This is not a team that can just all of a sudden throw out 5-6 good young guys. They don't have many, but Raynaud has been pretty good. I'd be very worried about Sabonis if he's not traded, and I don't think he's gonna be. I think what I would like to see the Kings do, and this would be a smart thing to do, but they probably won't do it. You got to get rid of Monk and or Schroeder. Those are guys that would be good bench additions for a contending team. And then you free up that log jam a little bit. You got too many guys that want the ball in their hands. And we have Westbrook. Now, no one is trading for Russell Westbrook, okay? Russell Westbrook is on the Kings for the rest of the season. No one is trading for him. And he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, which is why DeRozan and Levine are getting virtually no assists despite Sabonis being out, because Westbrook always has the ball in his hands.
Yep.
So if we're going to get any fantasy hope here, Monk and or Schroeder are the guys that I think need to be traded.
Totally agree. And you know, Keon Ellis is their young guard.
Purgatory. He's in
Devin Carter are their good guard.
No,
if I was Keon Ellis right now, dude, I don't know what. I would be posting on social media all the time. I'm a young stud. A lot of teams would want me, and you bring in Malik Monk was already there, but you bring in Schroeder, you bring in Westbrook this offseason. Okay, so let me ask you this. If Sabonis, okay, there's been Kuminga to the Kings, you know, for almost 2 years now. If somehow the Warriors can do like Kuminga and, you know, draft picks, Kuminga and Moses Moody for Sabonis and some draft picks for Sabonis, and somehow Sabonis looks relatively fine come January 15th, do you not think that Sabonis's fantasy value would be way higher playing on a Warriors team with Steph Curry than it would be if he was on the Kings? Obviously, that's a lot of hypothetical what ifs, but
I do, but I don't like that as a landing spot because Draymond.
Yeah,
I mean, they run a lot. He has the ball in his hands a lot too. If the Kings make a Kuminga trade, which would be so Kings, I wonder if it's like a DeRozan Monk kind of thing where the Warriors get a couple of guys back. They get some, because they're a veteran-laden team. They love these veterans. They don't want to play any of these young guys. You get Monk. They don't like to play Brandon Podziemski, so you could kind of take him out. And whenever Steph is hurt, Monk is kind of a nice fill-in guy because he's a chucker who can shoot from three. And then you get DeRozan, him and Jimmy Butler would kind of be a nice, I mean, it's a mid-range duo. You're not exactly getting a lot of threes there, but that's something. I don't know. I don't see Sabonis going to I don't think Draymond would sign off on that. Do you?
Okay, so the only reason why I think yes is because Draymond is the only like enforcer big, right? Al Horford is old, and I love Al Horford. Al Horford's a fantastic player. He won a lot of games. I love Al Horford, but he's not what he once was. And Quentin Post is a 7-foot shooting guard, right? So Draymond not only has to be like let's Steph, let's feed Jimmy. He also has to be the enforcer down. That gives you another, you know, a bigger, you know. I think with Curry would also be solid. Did my connection go off there?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out here a bit, Kirien. So while you look on your connection issues here, I am going to move on to the next team, the Indiana Pacers. Also 6-18. They are the second worst record in the Eastern Conference. However, they are healthy right now. They have gone 5-5 over their last 10 games. They are 4-2 since inserting Jay Huff, the shot blocking machine, into the starting lineup here. So, Pascal Siakam, Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard. These are guys that we thought had very high upside heading into the season without Tyrese Halliburton, all with a much higher runway to higher usage rate, more points. We could easily see the Pacers here jump the Nets and the Hornets in the standings. So then it's down to the Bulls and the Bucks for the 10th seed. The Bulls, we all know, stink. The Bucks, Giannis is hurt. Question is, Pacers have their own pick for next year. So what matters to them more? Getting in the play-in tournament or having a higher pick in the draft? Kirien, your connection looks to be better here. What do we think about what are the Pacers going to do, and how does that affect Siakam, Mathurin, and Nembhard?
Yeah, I think the East is still wide open, right? They're only 3.5 games out of that play-in tournament. You know, if you know, when Mathurin came back, Benedict was like, you know, if we just win 10 games in a row, we're right back in it, right? So like that's always a possibility. If they did win 10 games in a row, you know, they would be out of the play-in tournament and they would be just in the playoffs. I don't see that happening. I haven't looked at their schedule too closely, but depending on what their schedule looks like, I think even if you make the play-in tournament, then you get into the actual playoffs, and then even if you win a couple of actual playoff games, and then you get to the finals, you're back against the Thunder, and you're going to get even toasted worse than you did when you had Halliburton. So if I'm playing this like I'm playing, NBA 2K or something, and I'm starting a franchise, my goal would be to get as high of a draft pick as possible this year for the Pacers. I think, you get another young stud. Halliburton comes back. Aaron Nesmith has missed a bunch of time this year too. That would be my plan. But then obviously when you are dealing with real life and you look at these guys, and we were just in the finals last year, we don't want to take away that edge, right? And that's kind of what made the Pacers great, what was having that edge. So I think real life, they're going to keep trying to win games, but what's best for them would probably be to be competitive, but yet still lose games to get a higher draft pick. In terms of fantasy, I think you just have to ride with these guys. Maybe you sell high with them after they have a couple of good games. But right now, I don't think you want to move off of Benedict Mathurin or Andrew Nembhard at this point in the season. Maybe after a couple of high scoring games, and you can really get some good value for them. But I wouldn't want to move off of them yet. Maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe.
I completely agree. What I would do is roll the dice, because we saw how bad they were when they had injuries early in the season. The reason why they're winning again is because they have those three guys all healthy at the same time. So keep riding with what you got here with these guys. If one of them suffers a significant injury and you have the other two on your fantasy team, that's when it's time to shop them. Because the other fantasy manager is going to say, oh, well, let's just say for argument's sake, Siakam's out. Mathurin's going to shoot like crazy. Okay, well, the Pacers are also going to lose a ton of games. So they're going to fall down the standings. Then eventually they could become that tanking team. So that's when so for right now, like you said, hold on to all three of those guys and then see what happens with injury-wise and their record in the next few weeks. So we got two more teams to talk about here, Kirien. But before we do that, a word from our friends at Sling TV. Tired of paying for live TV you don't watch? With Sling, you can get all the live sports, news, and entertainment you want only when you want it. Get your hands on a Sling day, week, or weekend pass starting at just $4.99. Get over 30 of your favorite channels for the best price and stop overpaying for full-time live TV plans. Sling has a pass for any occasion. Big game tonight? Grab a day pass for just $4.99. Want a full week of live TV for one low price? Get a 7-day week pass. And for all those weekend watchers out there, you can enjoy live sports, news, and entertainment from Friday morning to Sunday night with a weekend pass. Only Sling lets you watch when you want, so you only pay for what you watch. Get live TV for the day, week, or weekend, your choice, all for a great price. Watch live TV on your terms starting at just $4.99. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com/deals today and tell them that RotoWire sent you. Kirien, we have to move on to the Clippers, the 6-18 Clippers, who are tied with the Kings. While a tank would seem to make sense for this veteran-laden team that desperately needs an injection of young talent, they don't own their first-round pick in the draft next year. The Thunder have swap rights for that pick, which they are obviously going to take advantage of. So, Kirien, do we need to worry about James Harden and Zubac? They're probably going to play, right?
Yeah, they're probably going to play. They need to play. But yes, I'm worried about everything in Los Angeles right now on the Clippers side of things. I think the Chris Paul news happened and then they won their next game and it was like, oh, Chris Paul was the problem. He was the scapegoat. Yeah, right. Okay. They're lost 2 in a row. They're still 2-8 in their last 10, 3-8. Everything you look at with the Clippers turns up red. It's ugly. I do not want to have any part of what's going on. The aspiration thing probably should have been a big red flag ahead of the season, but it's like, hey, these guys are veterans. They'll put that stuff aside. I think that's still, seeping through the cracks of this organization. Tyronn Lue, great coach, just didn't talk to CP3. That I don't know.
Wild.
I don't have any, insider information or any advanced stats. the Sprecher, radar just says the Clippers suck and stay far, far away from them. Even when you watch some of their games, Kawhi looks fine. Like his numbers look fine. And then you watch some of these games and it's like, he's not really getting to the rack. He's not really explosive. He's just feeding on mid-rangers like he's like a 40-year-old man playing against some like middle schoolers at the local gym, just hitting mid-rangers after mid-ranger. I'm staying far away from anything Clippers, even though, like you said, they theoretically need to play these guys because otherwise the Thunder get another huge asset. But I just don't see things turning around, especially in this Western Conference, which is just an absolute gauntlet right now.
I think the only two guys I would want on the Clippers on my team are Harden and Zubac, because say what you will about a lot of these veterans across the league, Harden doesn't like to take rest. He likes to play. He likes to get his stats. He doesn't get a lot of rest nights, so I think he'll be okay. And Zubac is not terribly old, and they don't have great options behind him. But anybody else, Kawhi Leonard, anybody else on that team, John Collins, I don't want any part of them. They would be well served to make a trade of some of their veterans. Whether anybody wants those guys is another story. But let's close thing out here with the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans are 3-22. You heard that correct. 3-22, the worst record in the NBA. And oh yeah, Zion is hurt again. Now, on the silver lining, Derek Clean looks great. Jeremiah Fears looks very good. Trey Murphy III still in the fold. What do we expect from the Pelicans moving forward? We already know you and I don't like Zion. So I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time talking about Zion. We don't want him on our teams. If he comes back at any point, we're trading him. But what about Jordan Poole, who's out? He's probably maybe he'll get traded. The guy I'm the most worried about is Trey Murphy. Last season, Trey Murphy did not play in any of the final 13 games for the Pelicans. Are you worried about Trey Murphy, Kirien?
Yeah. I don't like the trade to go after Queen. They need Queen to be good this year. Otherwise, they're going to lose a massive asset this year. They need to start winning some games. Otherwise, that trade's just going to keep looking worse and worse, no matter how good Queen plays. I am worried about Trey Murphy. But not in the tanking sense. I think if he is on the Pelicans late in the season, they're going to need him to play. But I'm worried about a trade. I think if he gets moved, he would have significantly less value if he got moved to, say, like the Pistons. Obviously, he would be a great fit for the Pistons. They need 3-point shooting. When Duncan Robinson was out, the Pistons needed, the Pistons still won some games, but their offense looked a little, clunky without an elite 3-point shooter in there. And then they obviously lost Malik Beasley last year, who was second in made 3-pointers in the entire NBA. So I think the Pistons they've been also linked to like Lauri Markkanen. But when all of the trade talks that I've heard, Trey Murphy to the Pistons is one where my eyes just were like, yes, I would do whatever I can if I was the Pistons to make that happen. You're not going to have to give up as big of a haul as you would for like Lauri Markkanen. But if he goes there, he's not going to be the number one option, right? Where he kind of is the de facto number one in New Orleans. And, even when Zion is there, Trey gets his shots up. But when you go to a contender, maybe he's second or third or even fourth on the list of who gets their shots, and he's going to be a floor spacer for those guys as opposed to like a league guy. So yeah, I think I'm not worried about any Pelicans in terms of tanking because they can't tank, right? What are they tanking for? But I would be worried about Murphy moving to a contender and losing some usage.
All right, we're going to answer a few questions in the chat here, but before we do that, a word from our good friends at Chalkboard. Cash in on your NBA picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players receive a free pick and 100% deposit match. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30-plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use promo code ROTONBA, that's ROTONBA, to receive a free pick and 100% deposit match. Now, Kirien, we're running a little long on time here, and I know you have your awesome show where you answer all the questions that people could possibly have for their fantasy basketball teams. But we do still have a few minutes here before we get to the best segment in all of the podcast universe. Let's answer a few questions.
All right. P-Dub says, good morning, guys. Trying to offload Pirtle and Mathurin in my 10-team 9-cat. What should I look for in a return for a 2-for-1? Yeah, I mean, Pirtle and Mathurin are probably you're maybe selling somewhat low on both of those, maybe Pirtle especially. So I don't really know who you would be, what kind of guy that you would be looking for in a 2-for-1. But if you're doing a 2-for-1, you need a top 40, top 30 type of player. That has been Mikal Bridges over the last couple of weeks. I don't know if I think Mathurin can, match Mikal Bridges' production, going forward. So I don't know if I would really want to do that and buy high on Mikal Bridges at this point. But you are looking, you got to go out and get a top 30, top 40 guy. Mike, does anybody pop into your head for this kind of trade?
Not really. It kind of depends on what are you trying to upgrade them into. Do you want an upgrade at guard over Mathurin, or is Pirtle been such a disappointment for you that you're hurting at center, and you need to add Mathurin to Pirtle to get yourself a big upgrade at center? So first thing I would do is try and figure out which of those two positions you want to upgrade the most, and then, like you said, look for maybe like a top 50 guy in order to help your roster there.
Okay, this is kind of crazy, but Jakob Pirtle, Benedict Mathurin for Zach Edey.
I can't do that. That's a little much.
Zach Edey's been very, very good, but yeah,
I can't do that because I don't know what happens when John Morant comes back.
Yeah, similar to that is you would be buying high on these two guys that I mentioned, Bridges and Edey, and both of these guys, Pirtle and Mathurin, you're kind of selling low on right now. Gurpat Sandhu traded KPJ and Coop for Cat, 12-team 9 categories, punt, field goals, and turnovers. Thought it was a nice sell high on KPJ. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Giannis, so KPJ might just be riding this high for a while now. But I like this trade. I think Cat is easily the best player in this trade, and KPJ and Coop have not major concerns, but obvious concerns in their fantasy games at this point. Is that fair?
I really like this trade. I think Cat's the guy you want there. Very high floor, great guy there. Yeah, I like this trade. That's a good trade.
Cool. Liger says, who to drop to activate Morant, Vassell or Filipowski?
Vassell for me. For me, that's not even close.
Yeah.
Because I think Nurkic's days of starting are going to be over within the next month. And I think Filipowski's going to play a lot down the stretch. He's been a very good rebounder, even in limited minutes. So Vassell would be a quick cut for me.
Filipowski was solid, really good to end last year too.
Oh,
so
yeah. He's awesome.
Kind of just waiting for that to happen again. And then Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper playing out of their minds. I mean, Castle's back. Harper's playing out of his mind, and then you still got De'Aaron Fox. Fire Nuts chimes in, says this week sucks, bored out of my mind. Yeah, it's nice for these players to get some rest for our fantasy team so they can
Fire
come
Nuts,
back.
this is a chance to reconnect with your loved ones and your friends. You watch the 2 games, and maybe you make a phone call to a buddy you haven't talked to in a while, or if you have a significant other, you sit down and watch their favorite TV show, and you bank some of those brownie points for when we get the next 12-game slate. That's what you got to do.
Absolutely. Wave Runner says, would you drop Sadiq Bey for Herbert Jones? Yeah, I think in a category league, Herbert's steals potential is just elite, right? Before Dyson Daniels came in the league, Herbert Jones was at the top of the leaderboards every year. So I think you just go with the one elite trait here. Sadiq Bey has been solid, very good in Zion's absence, and even with Herbert back, Sadiq Bey's roles hasn't changed. But I just think with the elite trait that's Herbert has with steals, you just go with him. Is that fair?
Yeah, doesn't Bey seem like a great trade candidate though? Like,
yes,
a contending team would definitely want him off their bench, and the Pelicans have no use for him at all. So I think that would be a guy that could probably be on the move in February. So with that in mind, yeah, I would probably lean towards Jones. It's close. It's closer than I ever thought it would be if you asked me this question back in October. But yeah, I would lean towards Jones.
All right. Well, I got two more that I pointed out that I want to get to.
All right, let's do it.
James says traded Norman Powell for Josh Hart in a 14-team, 14-cat roto. I need rebounds. Good move. Yes, I think this is a great move. We both love both of these guys, right?
Yeah, these are like picking between our children. How could you make us do this, James? I have a son and a daughter. When they ask me who's the favorite, you just say you both are. These are both our favorites. James, what are you doing?
Yeah, but yeah, if you need rebounds, Josh Hart is absolutely the move to go. I started the show off talking about Josh Hart being inserted in the starting lineup and how good that has been for the Knicks.
Completely agree. That's what do you need? You said you need rebounds, so Hart's the guy there.
Yeah. So I'm skipping a couple of ones just because this one is crazy, and I feel like we need to talk about it. Would you trade away?
Let's finish with this humdinger.
Would you trade away Wemby for SGA? MF Jones asks. No. Is that
yes? Let's play both sides. I say injury concern. I would lean towards SGA. That's the only deciding factor. Because if you were if you were drafting on day one, you would take Wemby. But man, I don't know. I don't like this calf stuff, especially for a guy as big as him. I don't like calf stuff. And SGA is probably going to get some more rest days as we get closer to the end of the season. But it's not like he's going to play fewer than 65 games unless he gets a serious injury, because he's going to qualify for MVP and all these kind of things. So I think he's going to play a minimum of 70 games. And Wemby, I don't know. I don't know how many games he's going to play. I'll say I'd go SGA. Maybe you can get a little sweetener because the guy that's asking for Wemby probably really wants him.
Yeah.
So maybe you can get maybe you get Herb Jones thrown in, something like that, something on that level to maybe help tilt the scales a little bit.
So you mentioned rest days for SGA. That was a concern for me with all OKC players, especially with Jalen Williams missing a large part of the early season. Now you kind of like when Jalen Williams comes back, then maybe you can give SGA a couple of rest games. So like you said, that's not going to be 10 games of rest games. That might just be a couple here and there.
He's scoring 30 points. He doesn't even play the fourth quarter in games. Yeah. Like he's already kind of getting rest.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't play fourth quarters like Jeremy Grant doesn't play in April. It's the same kind of thing. They don't need him in the fourth quarter because they're up by 25 points.
Yeah. If MF Jones, if you are like at the top of your standings, I think getting SGA is a super safe move and it kind of eliminates that worry about Wemby. But if you're kind of middle of the pack with SGA, I feel like you got to go with the home run swing and go for Wemby. Is that fair? That's fair to settle on?
Fair.
All right, cool.
Thank you for that great question.
Yeah.
And everybody who we didn't get to your questions, don't worry. Kirien has you covered tomorrow's podcast. Right, Kirien? Again, give us the ways to get you the questions.
Yep. Twitter, you can post them in this chat. You can post them in the chat tomorrow. You can just tune in at Sprecher RW, Sprecher like the root beer. You can tweet at me and ask questions. I'll be answering. Me and Adam King will be answering all of your questions again tomorrow. So, just hop back into the live stream, ask your question, or reach out on Twitter, or you can post it in the comment section on the show that's already set up for tomorrow. But yeah, any way you want to reach out to me, or Adam is preferred. But like Mike said, sorry we can't get to all of them every day. And as once we start answering them, they just start populating even more and more. So get them in at the top of the show, and we'll get them answered hopefully for you tomorrow.
And with that, it's time for the What Was That stat lines of the week. Kirien, you are up first.
Well, we talked about this player earlier in the show. Jonathan Kuminga, trade candidate, collected a DNP CD on Sunday. He was horrible against Cleveland. Jimmy Butler was out of that game. Draymond Green was out of that game. And it was like, oh, yeah, Kuminga, here's your chance to go and show your stuff against Evan Mobley, one of the greatest defenders and arguably like the kryptonite to anything that Kuminga could do. Maybe unsurprisingly, Kuminga really struggled in that game. He was benched at the end of the half. The Warriors played really well, though, without him. And then the next game, Kuminga is not on the injury report, despite, he had this bilateral knee soreness, which was mostly just Kerr saying, you aren't playing hard enough. And he's like, yeah, but my knees are sore. And that was my interpretation of it. Now he's back from that, but still not looking great. He tweaked his ankle after he came back from the knee stuff, but I don't think any of these injuries are really that severe. It's just he's not playing well. he doesn't look good out there right now. And the Warriors with Pat Spencer and these other guys are looking good. And I would expect Kuminga to be gone as soon as he can, which I think is like January 15th or something is the day that he's eligible to be traded. But Jonathan Kuminga getting benched probably shouldn't be surprising. But as someone who, you know, in a 18-team league that still is rostering him, even though I wanted to cut him on the final day of a fantasy week, collecting a DMP CD. What was that, Jonathan Kuminga?
Some of you may be concerned. Guys, there has been no Bulls minute. Oh, don't you worry. Don't you worry. We are combining the Bulls minute with my what was that stat line of the week. On December 5th, Nikola Vucevic played the Pacers. He had 8 points and 4 rebounds. The guy took 7 shots over 26 minutes. 7! Nikola Vucevic is one of the worst defensive centers in the league. The only reason to play him is because he is a very good scorer for a center. And he takes 7 shots. What was that? The Pacers have also given up the 5th most rebounds per game in the league. And Vucevic pulls down 4. You can't even beat Jay Huff and Isaiah Jackson. This is disgusting. The Bulls are in the midst of one of their horrible losing streak. And their veteran big man takes 7 shots. Vucevic's production is down across the board. He's averaging 15.9 points and 9.5 rebounds per game. Nikola Vucevic, if you are not going to score, there is no point for you to play basketball because you cannot play defense. Please trade Nikola Vucevic. Please get him off the Bulls, Kirien. I can't take it anymore.
The Bulls, we are who they thought they were.
Wow, we let him off the hook. We should have been mad at them right from the start, Kirien. And we were here high-fiving. Oh, they look so good with Josh Giddey. And Kobe White's not even back yet. Wait till Kobe White comes back. And this team thinks, oh, this Nikola Vucevic thing, but I can't watch him anymore. He can't guard the pick and roll, Kirien. I cannot watch this. I would rather see Zach Collins and Jalen Smith play center because this Vucevic thing is so frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the high water mark? 8-1, 8-2, or something like that.
They were 6-1 at one point. That's the number that sticks in my head.
They were that was the high water mark. The turning point for me was actually a good moment when Vucevic hit that game winner.
Yes.
That I was like, oh, like, you know, I think it was against Portland, right? The Bulls had a big lead.
Remember. Yeah.
I think Bulls had a big lead and then they blew it, and then Vuce hits the game winner, and then after the game, Vuce is just like, yeah, everybody on this team fucking sucks.
That was the Wizards game.
Okay.
That was the Wizards game where they were down. They came back, they won, they hang on to the Wizards, and Jalen Smith's like patting him on the back. Yeah, big man, veteran. And he just gave him like this nasty look.
Yep.
Because they needed a late second comeback to beat the Wizards.
Yep.
This is where Chicago basketball is at this point. My blood pressure is too high, Kirien. It's the holidays. We can't be this mad. Let's smile. Let's enjoy the Emirates NBA Cup. And with that, that is the end of today's RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast brought to you by Sling TV. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, everyone who put all their questions in the chat. Remember, Kirien, we'll get you covered tomorrow's episode with more questions. But until then, let's sit back. Remember, we talked about with Fire Nuts here, we've only got a couple games. Call your mom, call your dad, call your brother, call your sister, tell your significant other. Let's put on Dancing with the Stars or Love Boat or whatever. I don't know any of these reality shows, but put one of those on and let's enjoy some family time.
Absolutely. Happy holidays, everybody. Good luck with